afternoon, everyone. How are you? Have you had a great time so far? Yes. Yeah. Did anyone win an award today? All of you won an award today. Yes, you did. Okay. Well, welcome to our final day of the Tallgrass Film Festival. This is our second to last panel. My name is Crickett Rumley, and I'm the panel's director for Tallgrass, as well as the senior director of the New York Film Academy's Film Festival department. It is my job, my literal job every day, to track film festivals, help students develop festival strategy, and support them through all the aspects of festival submission, and then exhibition and appearances. So that's just me. To my left are people with a ton of experience in the festival world. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and what they do. But I will also say that I did not lie when I said amongst us, we have over 100 years experience in film festivals. Over 100 years. Yay. So I think we can talk on this topic.
We're old.
That doesn't mean we're over 100. Ian, introduce yourself, please, my friend.
So I'm an old man. My name is Ian Bignell. I'm a film festival strategist for Festival Formula, based out of the UK. We help filmmakers get their films into film festivals with a bespoke strategy. And yeah, we're trying to dilute the 40,000 film festivals out there into something that makes a little bit of sense.
So I'm Katie Bignell. I'm founder of Festival Formula. I've been doing festival strategy for 20 years now, so seeing lots of changes, good things, bad things, middling things. But yeah, we are here to help filmmakers figure out which festivals are best suited for their films and try and dispel a lot of myths.
Yes.
My name's Kimberly Browning. I'm from Los Angeles. I'm a filmmaker, director, producer, and I also work in the film festival business. I'm a programmer and a festival director.
Hey everyone, Mark Longbreak. I am the executive director of the Omaha Film Festival, coming up on our year 20. I've also been the program director since day one. And looking forward to chatting with you guys and hearing what they have to say. I'm going to learn from these guys as much as you are.
I know, I'm taking notes and recording this in multiple ways. Okay, so first of all, this panel is called Facts and Fallacies About the Short Film Festival Run. And I have 5 statements that I'm going to read out over the next bit of time. Then we'll open up for your questions. So, fact or fallacy, panelist? The definition of a successful film festival run is that your short wins lots of awards. Fact or fallacy?
Fallacy. Isn't that true?
No, I mean, there are loads of films that go on the circuit that don't win awards that do really well. I mean, the goal of every film shouldn't be to win awards. It should be to watch your film with an audience. That's the goal of every film. So I guess an award is a bonus on top that comes along. And if you get it, great. But that doesn't define you or your film.
Yeah, I think, I mean, as I said, I've been doing this a very long time. And back then we had a lot fewer film festivals. We also had fewer filmmakers because people were shooting on film. It was more expensive. People don't realize this, but it was actually more expensive to submit to festivals 20 years ago. So you actually have it cheaper. Nowadays, you are just spending more because you're submitting more. But 20 years ago, it was easier to get a selection and it was hard to get an award. Nowadays, it's freaking hard to get the selection. It's an extra bonus cherry on top if you get the award. So yeah, it's a complete fallacy.
Kimberly.
Of success for our films are the audience getting to see it and impacting the reason why we made it is for audiences. I love when Kimi Tani likes my work. I love it when different festival directors, but that's not my definition of success. My definition of success is that person writes me a letter saying they did kill themselves today because they saw this movie. Yeah. And everything that the festivals can do to help get it to audiences is great, but 80% of this film's journey is going to be beyond the festival circuit. So awards are meaningless in the execution of those things. It's adjacent. It's a couple of flowers I pick up to put in the bouquet of the story I tell to the investor for my next film. but I also don't incorporate any awards aspiration in the actual strategy of our film.
That is so important. You do not incorporate
No,
yeah,
can't.
at all.
Also know that as the film permeates, once we get into that phase 3, it's going to festivals where it has a bigger chance that it might pick up a couple awards, but it's never part of anything that's in any of the business plans. I don't even say the word award to any of our investors. I don't even say the word Sundance. I don't identify any festival. I just allude to if
You were speaking too much truth. That's why. Yeah, it's like
Awesome. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, we at our festival we give out awards, and I always say that the first thing I say at the award ceremony is that I hate awards. I hate that we're saying art is this and this piece of art is better than that piece of art. Though we have sponsors and we're able to give out cash, and I think that's important. So I always say the award is that you're here, right? That you had a screening. So that's everyone's kind of said that. So I'm just echoing it. But yeah, if every set of laurels is an award. As far as I'm concerned. So yeah, a successful festival run is you had a festival run, you were in many places. That's success, I think.
there are some festivals that don't actually give out awards because they don't like the fact that they're kind of lauding somebody over the rest of the filmmakers. So
actually, as a company, when we speak to filmmakers for the first time, we do ask them like, what's the goal for the film? And if they turn around and like to win awards, that's an alarm bell for us, because that's not the right way to go on the circuit. But you're also setting yourself up for disappointment, because you can't guarantee awards as much as you can't guarantee selections. And please do not submit to awards film festivals. They're a load of shit.
yeah,
It's not real.
Quick film freeway tip: if a festival has more than 10 categories that you could possibly submit to, that is an easy way to identify that it may be a scam type thing.
it was massive red flag.
Yeah.
if they have a certain section for each award, that's not legit. Like, even reputable festivals are still doing it, as much as we try to advocate against it, but don't give them your money.
Yeah, I mean, we found one that had like 52 categories, and it was really drilling down into like
Best grip.
best grip, and best poster,
Best poster, best headshot.
trailer, but and it was just like, this is all bollocks. Like, you know, but we understand why filmmakers can fall into that trap, because it's kind of going back to this idea of success and trying to get a reputation as a filmmaker, is that people want to call themselves award-winning, and we get that, but you want that award to mean something. So when they hear about you, they already know about your award because it's reputable.
Right.
So the kind of quick scammy festivals where it's like an awards body, they don't play the film, it's not curated, it's literally just, you know, you pay to win, which is not even pay to play. But we understand that, you know, the circuit journey is really long, it's tediously slow, so people want that quick validation.
Yes.
But just don't waste your money and treat your film and yourself a lot kinder.
I guess the best award to win is like an audience award, as long as you haven't packed it with your family and friends and everything else to scam it. But like, but which happens. But like, an audience award is the best one to win, because not only did your film play, but like that was the audience then turning around to you and saying, that was my favorite.
That was I would also add to this that my students are constantly sending back notices that they got awards at different festivals, and they'll send it to the different departments of the school, and a different department will say, oh, Crickett, look, so-and-so won blah, blah, blah. And I have to write the very, very painful, this is a fake award. The filmmaker had to pay $300 for their award. If we publicize this in any way, it makes us look like we don't know what we're doing. Yeah. And it's really, really rough for the departments to hear that, but it's rough for the filmmakers too, because they already invested their heart and money into whatever that was. Before we move on to the next factor, fallacy, I want to go back to the other end of the table and ask, what are besides the audience and besides an official selection from a legitimate festival, what valuable festival, what are the other important things that filmmakers can get from their festival run?
Yeah, I mean, audience feedback, right? So you sit in front of your computer for a year and a half, and you pick up the beats and stuff, and then now you're sitting in an audience with people that aren't your friends and family. Your mom's not sitting there, right? And so now you're able to hear where they're laughing, where they're crying, where they're, So I think that just being in a room full of people, so that's a big part of, when you're choosing your festival run, choose a festival that has an audience, right? Yeah. So there's actually going to be people there. So I think that's important to be able to share that audience experience with your film. Yeah.
For me, every person I meet that I can get to volunteer to sign up for my spam is my job as a filmmaker. I worked really, really hard in the 80s to be part of a collection of people to create our own opportunities, which meant we are doing our own business development. So for me, festivals is the most effective way that I find my audiences and get the data I need to know where my films are going to play well in the United States and internationally. And if I can come out with more people that are not just people who have fallen in love with the way we tell stories, but will come along this journey with me and buy everything I sell for my career, that's my goal. And festivals and me finding those people that are going to give me their email addresses. So not just to come to a screening, but be part of the people championing my work across the country. And so as I go through festivals, you're going to tell 2 friends. And then when the film comes out and I do my digital release, you are the emails that I'm going to go to going, hey, help me spread the word. Yep. That's the most effective equity that my company has when I'm now partnering with a distribution partner or I'm self-distributing. These are the most essential parts of knowledge I need for my film, because even when I'm working with a bigger company that has a marketing team, the people in that marketing team might not understand my Blackness or my feminine storytelling in my film. They might not have the experts that know what I believe my audience is. So that collaboration becomes really critical, and I become a good marketing partner that they get excited to stay in business with. Definitely. And all of that starts to me with festivals.
I mean, just off the back of what you said, like as a strategist, our goal is to get the film seen, but our goal is also to get the film traveling. And this might be one of your other questions, and I apologize if I'm jumping the gun. We really dislike when a filmmaker doesn't want to submit to somewhere they cannot physically attend, because you severely limit where your film can travel. And even if you had all the time in the world and budget, you will not have the lifestyle to be able to go to multiple festivals. If we just take this weekend now, there's like 50 festivals happening at the same time. So for our goal, it's to get the film seen, but it's to get the film traveling, because it is a massive pat on the back for you as a filmmaker. If, let's say, you're a US filmmaker and your film screens in Australia and it screens in Germany and in Canada and in Ireland, you're showing the universality of your work, which is absolute kudos brownie points for you, because then you can use that for your career conversations. If you are, let's say you've made a short and you're working on a feature, you can then woo exec producers, or if you're talking to financiers, you can say, hey, I've done my own market research, which is the festival run, and I can prove my work has an audience here, here, and here, which for them, they're like, great, you've done the work for us. So let's invest in you. Let's have a chat. But I do get frustrated about filmmakers kind of only submitting where they can physically attend, because you don't know what you're doing in 6 months' time. You don't know if you're going to have money, or if you've got childcare or your day job or whatever. And I think it's very limiting, which is where we come in and we're like, hey, you've got a film that will play perfectly at this festival. Let's give it a go. And you might not have considered it because you're like, oh, I can't attend. Like, there are any festival that requires you to physically attend for your film to screen is not a festival to deal with. We have been at some very big festivals at Venice and at TIFF and Tribeca, and that filmmaker hasn't always been able to be there because of, we were at Sundance and the filmmaker was pregnant, so couldn't travel. The travel ban during COVID stopped people being able to travel around. And sometimes day job and budget, these things happen. So I always kind of say, like, never limit where your film can go, because you want the film to travel. That's why you've made it.
But we do like it when filmmakers attend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, if you can, brilliant.
Please come.
Yeah, but like, you wouldn't,
yeah. Sentinel we're sending into the world, and I want that permeating and continuing while I'm starting to make the next film as well. And there's so many tools that we have now. I don't need to be at every festival because I'm pre-gaming. I'm introducing myself to my fellow filmmakers a month before we go, cross-marketing.
How are you doing that, Kimberly? How are you pre-gaming?
All digital. When my film gets into a festival, the first thing I do is I go onto the website and I literally find the social media of every single other person and I connect with it. And then when I'm promoting my film, sometimes I'll just find 5 other women that are screening there as well, and I'll put that in my blast and I'll hotline to all of it. I introduce myself and swap stuff. Hey, if you're not coming, send me your postcards. I'll put them out for you.
Yeah.
That kind of collegiality breeds community.
Do this. What is she? Do this if you're a filmmaker.
Yeah, and digitally, if I can't go to a festival, I make sure let the festival community know that I am available for a live Zoom, or I'm happy to pre-tape a Q&A that can play in the theater around my film. That's such a great experience for the audience, even if I can't be there, that at least they can play a bit of a Q&A that works really well. And I don't care what time it is where I am. I'll get up in the middle of the night to do a Q&A if they have the technology in that theater to Zoom.
I think that's fantastic. That's a really valuable thing, because what this does when you're pre-gaming, as Kimberly said, is that especially for short filmmakers, new and emerging filmmakers, it means that you've already met people before you get to the festival. And then when you get to the festival, you're not walking in cold. You're walking in looking for your new friend. And that can really help you feel more grounded in starting out at the festival. I have a quick question before we move on to our next fact or fallacy. How many of you filmmakers with your current film have stood up during the screening, the live screening, down sort of front, and turned around and watched the audience watch your film? Who has done that? All right. This is really important, and it's terrifying, but it's really critical, because that's where you really start to see the actual experience of the audience. You see it on their faces. Have y'all seen Amelie? Amelie did that. You can do it too. So there's that. And I'm just going to put a plug for educational panels as being a really good reason to attend a festival, or something to look for in festivals, not just because I run panels here, but the people who are on panels at festivals are generally, they're in the trenches in a way that you either want to be, or right now, or in 5 minutes later, or you aspire to. And so I think that's a really valuable the goal in attending a festival.
And they turned up because they want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They are not getting paid big bucks.
No.
I mean, Ian is. All right. Are you ready for fact or fallacy number 2?
I'll just tell you.
What's this marriage for?
It's a front. I just married the boss. That's what it is.
Okay.
He admitted it, finally. Okay. Fact or fallacy? Your short film needs to premiere at a top-tier festival, so you should submit to top-tier festivals first. Sundance, Venice, Cannes, etc. And the award qualifying festivals, the Oscar and BAFTA qualifying festivals, and leave those niche and regional festivals for later. Fact or fallacy?
Go on, Ian.
It's a fallacy.
Fallacy.
It's a fallacy, but I mean, I will say you do need to consider putting the bigger festivals first if they have premier status and stuff. Yep. But what I will say as well on top of that is that not every film is going to play Sundance. And it's a very quick way of spending money going to all those bigger festivals. So you have to be really objective about what your film is and whether it's the right quality for that festival. And the best way of doing that is go on the festival website and look at their previous editions and try and find if you match and fit in with their previous lineups, because that'll be a good indicator of whether it's going to be good value for money. Because, you know, realistically, if you have a straight up rom-com, probably Berlinale is not going to pick it. If you look at their previous submissions, they don't play that type of film. So you can do a lot of work to begin with to protect yourself and make sure that you're not wasting money. And that's what we do as well, because sometimes as a filmmaker, you're not always objectively going to be the best person to decide how high the film can aim and where it can go. Sometimes getting a second set of eyes outside. And we as a company, we watch everything for free and we give feedback for free. And you can run a mile if you want to after that. I don't care. But if it helps you to stop wasting money, because you will spend big bucks really quickly on those big festivals, it will ground you and it'll make you realize that those bigger festivals are not always going to make you. And going back to the last question as well, a festival, especially like this, is an opportunity for networking. It's about meeting people in a room. And even if you're not playing at the film festival, still go if you can. This is all here. You can have this without being screened. So understand what the festivals can do for you, and understand that where the lights are and where the big studios are isn't always going to be your playpen. Actually being the same size fish as everybody else in a decent sized pond is a better way of going. I'm not saying not every film can't go to Sundance, but just reading your own film and understanding it first can really, really help you and save you money.
Who wants to add to this factor fallacy?
I get really pissed off when filmmakers approaches, let's aim for the big ones and then go down to the small, because
Why?
Because they have this kind of side quest of moaning about how expensive festivals are to submit to. And I'm like, but because you're submitting to the big festivals and your film's probably not suited there. And that's not saying that your film is bad at all. It deserves an audience, but it's about looking and being realistic. Because, I mean, look, you can just go on Reddit and it's full of venom, but it's always the same thing. I've submitted to the big festivals and they didn't take it. Therefore, the circuit's corrupt. Nobody watches the films. You've got to have a famous name in it. And I'm like, I bet you if I looked at your list of where you submitted, you've spunked a load of money very quickly on festivals that are really not suited for you. And you're missing out on the opportunities on the regionals or the ones that are still Academy qualifying or BAFTA recognized that can still give you kudos. And it really annoys me because there is no one size fits all for every film. Like everyone who has a film in here now, we could probably sit down and be like, all right, your film is really great. It's not the flavor of the top tier, but hey, the one's just underneath it, I think it stands a chance. Your film is really strong. We think you should go for the higher part of the European circuit. It's very different. It's very bespoke to the film. And I think for me, the sooner filmmakers realize there is no quick and easy way to get a circuit journey. You have to research. You have to really think about what makes your film, and who made it. You made it, no one else. We have experience of, world premieres at Venice, the original OG festival. But we hardly submit anything there because we will really look at a film and go, does this really deserve, is this something we really think will stand a chance there?
And it's really expensive. It's 85 euros, right?
Yeah,
to
yeah.
submit to Venice.
And we've had premieres, well, no, let me rephrase this. We've had screenings at Venice and at TIFF, Tribeca, BFI London, Edinburgh, all of those big guns. But when you actually delve down into it, it's about filmmakers wanting to pick where they have their world premiere, which is something that you don't really have that opportunity to do, especially as a short filmmaker. But with Sundance, you don't need a premiere.
Well, that's the biggest myth we can bust today, my friends. Last year, I went through the list of 54 shorts, and about half of them didn't even have a Utah premiere. So please do not think you have to have a premiere, a world premiere, a U.S. premiere, an international premiere, a premiere of any sort at Sundance in terms of shorts. If they want your film, they will program your film.
I really wish there was no premieres for shorts at all, if I'm being honest. Like features, I get it, but shorts, it's just it's hard enough as it is. Silly.
Yeah. Kimberly, what do you want to add to this conversation?
So if there's any insight to be made, let's remove the construct of a good festival versus a bad festival. Let's tier A or top tier festival. I approach it with every person's film as a snowflake, and you have to create an understanding and 10 times more research that the filmmaker needs to do before sending us your money. And so I can tell you in the premiere status at Tribeca, if we love it, we program it. Now, we, for the first time this year, are removing our New York premiere requirement for New York.
Oh,
That's big.
And so in the
Newsflash.
we have program stuff that we love because we loved it. There is a consideration. I'm not saying that there isn't. And if there are 3 films that we love equally, the one that is newest is going to get that spot more likely, but that's common sense.
Yeah.
Be smart. If you really are passionate about Cleveland, don't apply to a bunch of other festivals in that region prior to Cleveland. However, AFI and Sundance have always programmed, even when I was at LA Film Festival, we programmed it. Even if it had played something regionally prior to us.
Right.
But we only had 4 shorts programs.
Right.
So it was just hard to get in, period.
Yeah.
I would say that from the Short Film Academy side, with the subject matter, the most important thing is you do not have any perspective of your film. It's your baby. And if all 4 of your generations have gone to Harvard and now somebody is telling you you're not going to Harvard, but I'm telling you your film might be a dancer that needs to go to CalArts. And so the number one thing you can do is get somebody who knows what they're talking about to give you a dispassionate, objective business look at your film, because your film is personal. It's about your grandmother's journey to America. It's about your abortion. It's about your loss and your pain and your suffering that informs the stories that we tell. You were the last person that had any objectivity, especially for your first or second film, about what festivals mean. You have to separate our ego-based artists looking for food and nourishment, which we believe that getting into a brand name festival is going to feed us, and separate it out from down the road where you're going to get that feedback as a filmmaker that you've done it right. I have seen significant amounts of filmmakers make significant career and creative decisions in your life based upon 4 or 5 rejection letters from a festival they had heard of that had never programmed a film like theirs ever in their history. So I say that with love, but as somebody who's starting to watch a lot of films for Tribeca right now, many times I wish we could say to them, I'm so glad to see where you are in your journey, but if you had looked to see anything in the last 20 years that we've programmed, this work isn't there yet. Don't send it to us. There's 10 other festivals that get the same audience and the same press. It's in the same year that use the same theater.
Yeah.
Exactly what
Yeah.
This.
Yeah.
And also, like, as well, like, you're not, just because everyone has this idea they want to submit to Sundance because they're not a filmmaker unless they submit to Sundance, but newsflash, you're a fucking filmmaker.
Made a film. Yeah.
You know, baked into every one of these rounds so far, and I'm gonna hammer it one more time, and then it'll be hammered more. Is research, right? Hopefully, everyone in the room has a little festival strategy. Hopefully, you guys are all doing the research. If you're not, hopefully tonight when you go home, you're gonna start doing research on. Yes, enter all the big kids, and yes, spend all your money. But the more research you do, the more selective you are, the more you're using these companies that will help you develop a strategy. It just makes more sense because you want to build an audience. You want people to see your film so that you can make money on it, or make the next thing, right, and keep making that. Because you don't want to be an accountant anymore. You don't want to mow lawns anymore. You want to be a filmmaker. So let's continue doing that. And the best way to do that is to have an audience. The best way to do that is to do it correctly.
Yeah, and also I want to say, after doing this 20 years, every client who has qualified for Oscars, BAFTAs, British Independent Film Awards, the Irish Film and Television Awards, Canadian Screen Awards, any awards body, their world premiere has never been at that big festival. And I can honestly tell you that every client that's qualified for any of those awards bodies, it's been like the 5th or the 10th or the 12th kind of selection.
So you're saying that the festival where they won the award qualifying award was not their premiere.
It's never their premiere. Yeah. It's never. I mean, going back to Sundance, we've had 2 clients screen the same year, and one of them was a Utah premiere. That's the only premiere it had, and it had played at L'Étrange in France. It had played at London Short Film Festival in the UK. It played at Cucaloris, and then it played Sundance.
Yeah.
But everyone's always like, you've got to have a world premiere. And the other film was a short Irish documentary, and I think it was like a US premiere that it had. But
And also as well, sorry, the other thing as well with these bigger festivals, like when you start getting selections, don't wait for the big festivals and say, I'm going to pull my film out of this film festival because I'm waiting on the big one, which is never going to come. Because it's rude. Don't submit to the festival in the first place if you don't want to accept their acceptance. Don't miss good opportunities.
This is actually a real issue that can offend programmers and festival heads and cause some serious issues. I have a really good horror story to tell y'all later. But I want to tell you a happy story really quickly along these lines, which is one of my students premiered her film premiered her short at HollyShorts when we were there this summer. And she is from China, and her film was played in an Asian American Pacific Islander block with 6 or 7 other films. And she had a really good experience at HollyShorts. But HollyShorts is big. It's a lot of days. It's like, what, 10 days?
Yeah.
10 days. And there are lots of screenings going on. There are lots of events going on at any moment. Luckily, she was able to bring some her boyfriend and some cast and crew members with her, and she really did well. But this was our first festival ever, and it was a big one. 3 weeks later, we were in North Carolina, my home state, at Beyond, the Cary Film Festival, which is a really small festival. There's only one thing going on at a time. Filmmaker happy hour, then shorts block, then filmmaker dinner, then shorts block. And she was there, and she said, Crickett, I wish this had been my first festival. Yep. I have really been able to just like be here and meet people and not feel overwhelmed. And I think that new and emerging filmmakers, if you've never been part of a big festival, to be honest, it can be your worst nightmare, and you can really squander every opportunity. I have had filmmakers tell me that. And they'll never do it on the record, but whatever, I told you. Quick facts. Last year, 12,098 short films were submitted to the Sundance Film Festival. 54 were programmed. Y'all know that's a terrible, terrible number. I was with Kimberly. Remember Kimberly? Last, February, March, we had dinner or lunch or something. And I said, so how many films did you get submitted?
Last year we got over 8,200 short films, and we programmed 77.
Yes.
And now with we're expecting more, and we over the years are getting more submissions, which is wonderful. And however, festivals, especially post-COVID, are having to shrink and do less. And so, as much as we'd want to program more because we're getting more, we do what we can to encourage the filmmaker. When you get that letter from a programmer saying we loved it, we just couldn't program it, believe it and take it as positive. And I know it can be hard to get the phone call that you were number 11 on a 10 choice, but please take it, because we want you to know and not make any critical decisions in your life based upon thinking you didn't do this right. It just wasn't right for us.
It's quite common, actually, isn't it? Because like at the moment, there's so many film festivals.
Jane, I'd like to just finish saying is that please remember in that, for instance, we did an entire sidebar on films about gun violence. The next couple of years, we see still amazing films in the topic, but we've already showcased that topic. And so that rejection letter doesn't mean we don't love your filmmaking. It means we've already had this conversation with our audiences as a festival. And so please make sure that you are not ingesting these rejections as dissertation of your ability, but do understand that if you do have some story flaws or technical issue, or you didn't make your day one day and the coverage just isn't there and you have pretzeled the scene, those few split hairs can absolutely be the difference between you getting into a festival that has a lot of other candidates, because we're seeing hundreds of films about abortion. We're seeing hundreds of films about Black people and their interaction with the police. So the inventory is available for somebody whose performers all got it nailed. And that can be the simple difference. It is Tom and Padma, the last week of Top Chef, for these programming teams and deciding who's getting in and who isn't. And so don't twist that up into us saying, you suck, because that's not it at all. Most of the time we're talking to each other and calling each other, sending recommendations to each other about films that we thought and maybe have a space for it. and just as prolifically about filmmakers who are behaving badly that have great films, but boy, they were a nightmare to deal with, so we didn't.
Yeah. So this is programmers who work for different festivals talk to each other. They run into each other. They go to festivals together. And we're in like online chat rooms together.
And many programmers program multiple festivals.
Yep.
So what happens here travels with me when I'm sometimes behind the scenes uncredited, facilitating programming specialties for other festivals.
So don't suck.
Don't be a dick.
So Kimberly, you just touched on something. That was very helpful. But it's important. You touched on something that I want to continue on. Fact or fallacy, it's okay to submit a work in progress and have an unfinished Film Freeway account when you submit.
We get that email all the time. Hey, I'm close. I'm picture locked, but we don't have score. We don't have, and I always say, we'll take it. You know, we'll take your work. Yeah. But the problem is, all of my judges are going to watch the film, and you might even have a title card that says, hey, this is temp music, and there's a crash sequence that's going to be amazing, and the VFX isn't done yet. You're putting a lot of confidence and trust in my judge figuring out whether or not you're going to execute that well, right? So I say, sure, but it's going to affect our ability to judge your finished work. So boy, in that research, you know, if you're looking at the deadlines, and I know, like, if it's a local festival in particular, because that happens with us, you know, all the local films want to be in our festival. So they have our deadlines, and so they're trying to meet that. And so we do have some of that. And I mean, every once in a while something will get in, you know, but it's tough. I mean, it's an uphill battle to have a work in progress film get accepted, if it's depending on where that work is.
Yeah, for me, a lot of what drives that motivation are the big festival and the big festival deadlines that you were using internally because it's your dream. The hardest festival to get into, get the most works in progress, which means you have the least amount of chance to get in there because you are being compared to films that are done. Instead of waiting till your film is done and submitting to the next bigger festival that might be on your wish list. Does that make sense? So if you're going to date somebody for the first time, particularly a festival you don't have a relationship with, you haven't screened at before, if you screened at my festival and you're an alumni, send me your work in progress.
For sure. We trust you.
However, if you're going to show up at my doorstep on our first date and you just came from the gym, you don't have to be a hand-on, and don't win.
Does this happen to you a lot? All right, I wouldn't be surprised.
If you have a film that narrative or emotional journey is informed by your effects as a genre filmmaker, don't send me a work in progress what your plates and where your VFX is going to be. Yep. If the negative space and that's the mechanics of the filmmaking, don't get so hung up that you've got to submit to Screenfest. There's 20 other festivals happening 6 weeks later. Let your film be done.
And also, I'm going to add really quickly that I think people get hung up on, like, I have to get my film out right now. But it is really, it's just in your body. It's just in your head. Yeah. And the festival run, once you have that first premiere, you can be out in the festival world for 18 to 24 months. So that is not a real clock to be paying attention to.
The only thing, if it's a work in progress, your color's fine.
I agree with that.
Same.
Also check if
music can be a disaster.
Make or break, yeah.
Distracting.
Yeah, I mean, check also if the festival accepts work in progress in the first place.
Yeah.
Because they'll say outright whether they do or don't. And also consider this as well. If you have work in progress and you're submitting to a festival that accepts it, and they're like 6 weeks out from their festival, are you going to finish your film in time? Because that's a big pressure to put on the festival. If you've got
here last year,
Yeah.
that filmmakers got programmed and it was already announced and everything,
They didn't get it.
and they couldn't finish the film.
Yeah. But
I always like, in my post process, my first couple screenings, maybe first or second screening, are my focus groups.
Yeah, big time.
And so I have budgeted knowing that that's where I'm really going to feel the breathing in the room. I sit in the very back. I don't sit up front like you were saying. But for me, I can read a room from the back, knowing that I'm probably going to go back and tweak. And so that might not be my final color at that first screening anyway. It's going to be dialed in, but I budgeted to be able to go back in anyway. So I try not to be so histrionic about anything that's work in progress. Color, I'll send it in without the color done.
Yeah.
Maybe the final sound mix, but
I think the thing to remember as well is festivals will only watch a film once.
Exactly.
even if we say even if they say it's a time issue as well, and that you might be too far down the lane by the time you swap your thing out, it just might not be physically possible.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify something with that statement.
I was going to do the same thing. I know you're going with this.
Take it, Mark.
No, well, she said once. So, for example, I've got 4 screeners in my feature films, right? So if you submit a work in progress and 2 of those screeners have seen it, I'm not going to make them watch it again when you send your updated version. So you didn't mean
thank you for the
one person watching it. You meant my 4 people are going to watch it, but maybe only 2 of them saw the final cut.
One version.
Yeah. Is that what you're going, Crickett? Yeah.
I know sometimes I see a film and I think it has great potential, and I want to know, hey, how close are they? And I might send up a note saying, let's keep an eye on this one. I feel like if they have the plane in their finishing, this could be something we're interested in. But the magnitude of films, but for the things I screen, like the program I do in LA, that's me. And I program what I like. And so I have more latitude to be able to have a filmmaker send it. Hey, send me that film again. Did you finish it? But anything that's getting more than 1,000, 1,500 submissions, I don't think has it.
It's hard.
Don't have the
It's hard
time
to
to-
come back.
Major first impression, it's going to be hard to get me off of things that bothered me your first time seeing it.
Okay, let's move on to our next fact or fallacy. And then after that, I'm going to open up for your questions. So don't be shy when I open up for questions. No, a fact or fallacy, whatever number this is. You have to know someone to get into a good festival. If you don't, you need to reach out and find a programmer, or your film won't get into that festival. Fact or fallacy?
Hard fallacy.
Do I get to start? I won't lie. It doesn't hurt to know people, right? It doesn't help. So when you go to a film festival, for sure, hey, how's it going? Hey, you're the programmer. Like, meet people, right? Go to the parties, meet people. Because when you know people, then you have a likelihood of them like, okay. But I will say that programming our festival for 20 years, I have friends, I have people that I know very well who I've worked with on projects, and I've rejected their films, right? So it's not the end all. So the end all is the final work. If it's a great film, I'm going to program it regardless if I know you or not. So it doesn't hurt to have those pre-existing relationships, be on the circuit. But yeah, it's not the end all.
It's complete bullshit that your film will not get into a festival because you haven't ever screened there before and you haven't slept with somebody.
That's what I meant to say.
I can tell you that the single most offensive thing that anybody has said to my face is that programmers don't watch the films, or that it's political, and the only reason that films get in is because they know somebody. We work really, 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 really hard. We dedicate half of our year will be dedicated to watching films for the next festival I'm about to program for. I take it personally. This is one of my life's passions. We write coverage. Every festival I have worked for the last 20 years, we write coverage on every single film that we score them, we write coverage, and we collectively talk about it. There are 17 to 20 different reasons why this festival might not program this film this year, and who knows who. It has nothing to do with it. No. The second thing I'm going to offer is that when you talk about festivals that are getting 500, 3,000, 8,000 submissions, and we have social media, all filmmakers are having everybody that they know that knows somebody that works with us, email, FaceTime, Instagram, us. So if you are sending 2 or 3 people in your life to email me about your film, and we get 8,200 submissions.
It's a lot.
There is no agency, there is no person that works on the board. There is nobody at a legitimate, qualified festival with a professional programming team where any of that turns into anything but white noise. If you have submitted and Crickett says, hey, here's the tracking number for a filmmaker that went to my school. Great, thanks for the heads up. That film might not even be assigned to me, but I might pass that along to who it is. But again, that doesn't change the dynamic of the relationship that film has with our impression of that film when we're scoring it at that time. I'm sorry.
No,
I think that's good news.
Get passionate.
I think that's good news.
No, it's a really big fallacy that we're keen to point out. And obviously, we're unique because we're not a filmmaker, we're not a festival, but we sit in between and we're a conduit. So we do know programmers, we do know festival directors. I always like to point out that the hierarchy and the structural team is very different from one festival to another. A festival director may be in a team where they are not part of the selection committee, they are just the front of house. You might be a festival where the festival director is the programmer and they battle it out with the 6 other team members in a room. So we know a lot of people, but it doesn't guarantee anything. What it tells us is we know what they like and what they don't need, which as filmmakers, you should also, as you go around your circuit journey, begin to pick up that information. I really dislike the idea that you've got to know someone, because if that were the case, we'd have really fucking boring festivals because we'd have the same films everywhere.
Yep.
And that, yes, we do get same films traveling, but not the entire same program. That's why festivals are different. They have different niches. They have different premiere requirements, which, we don't like. But they are going to be a different kind of, they're a different beast for a different audience. We've had, like I said earlier, we've had clients screen at the very big festivals, and we now know them, but at that point we didn't know them. We were like, that film's strong enough, we think we're going to take a punt on it. And it worked out. But it's not that we go, oh, well, we've had some films at Venice before, so we're going to send absolutely everything we have to Venice because they can't say no to us. No, they can, because it's up to them. It's their festival. So every programmer and a festival director has to stand by the films that are selected because it's their ship to steer. And the other thing that really annoys me about, I love filmmakers, by the way. I keep saying that I'm annoyed at filmmakers. I love you.
I think everyone here loves filmmakers.
I love you all because you are, I'm here for you. But I see a lot of, I can't remember who picked it up, but if you're an alum, or if it's a hometown festival, I get so annoyed with filmmakers going, I didn't get into this festival and I shot it here, and I'm like, you and how many other people? It's your film, and because you're an alum, it doesn't mean a guaranteed get in the back door, because otherwise, again, we'd have the same filmmakers at every festival. So I do think, again, it's going back to this idea that you have to be looking at your film not as like, this is the only thing going on. Like, you have to realize that especially for a short film, your short film, for the majority of its life, exists with other short films in a block. And your film will play different blocks every single festival you go to. Mm-hmm. And that is something to really embrace. It can be quite confusing sometimes. But at the same time, you will begin to see, oh, that's why that festival picked it, because it's thematic program. Or that festival picked it because it's a documentary or it's an animation. But it's very unique to every festival. But yeah, it's not about who you know, because otherwise it would be more black and white. It would be more like binary and easy to kind of dispel.
If there's any one thing you're going to take away from this, there is no secret backdoor into film festivals. Mm. And the idea that you're going to write this amazing cover letter, and if the festival watches your film and they don't like it, they're not going to take your cover letter and go, oh my God, stop. We need this cover letter is amazing. We have to pick this now. By that token, you'd have to print it out every time and put it on every seat to justify why it would be at the screening. It's nonsense. Your film is the reason it gets picked, not because you know someone. I know loads of people. It makes no difference. At the end of the day, like, either your film is good enough or it's not. Do your research. That's all you can do.
I'm going to add a couple of thoughts, and then we're going to start hearing from you all. And one is that I work with about 300 films every year. Our campuses are New York, Los Angeles, and South Beach. Our students are from around the world. We're about 50% international. And one thing that I have learned is that who knows what a good film is, right? Like, who knows what a good film is? One of my most successful films, Mark does, one of my most successful films had serious issues in performance and it had an unrealistic screenwriting situation, a setup payoff situation. And some of my faculty members were mad at me when I programmed it for a showcase. And I said, you watch, this film's going to get places. And it did, because it was a topic that was important and very current. And that filmmaker got into really great spaces and then is in pre-production on the feature for that. And that was a moment where I was like, I have to check myself and my idea of what is a good film and think about what is the audience for that film and who needs that. And that audience is not going to be looking at this film in the same way that my Columbia University MFA brain is. And so that's a conversation that I have with my filmmakers a lot too. The other thing that I want to say is that some of my filmmakers gave me a great gift a couple of years. Last year, they went on the record. It's on the New York Film Academy YouTube. It's called The Road to Sundance, and they walk you through, we walk through the steps from early submissions to Sundance. Spoiler alert, they got into Sundance. It was a painful journey, and they talk about it, and they talk about the sheer amount of rejection, and I think it's really worth listening to understand, like, they got where they wanted to be, but it was hard, and they learned a lot along the way. So that's my plug for that. All right, who has a question for our lovely team? All right, Andalucia and then Janan.
I have 2. Sorry, I usually have like 10, but I put them down to 2. Is it fact or fallacy when you have a long, short doc that it's really hard to program? Like my film is 27 minutes, and I come from TV world for that much more normal time, and unfortunately no one told me like that's a really bad time. So I want to know first if that's fact or fallacy.
Yeah.
And then the second,
You'll remember. Okay.
We can talk for an hour and a half on your first question.
how much it really influences like the fellowship, scholarships, development funds that are within festivals. I go into IPA and I see Black Star and I see all these film festivals where they many of the films that are featured there went through some kind of program that's related to that festival. So like how much
That's normally 1 or 2 films, right?
No, I saw.
Yeah, I'm just saying, when you look at that,
Yeah.
and if you're, go look at how many films were in the program that year. And out of all the films in the program, how many got programmed into the funds? They don't correlate. Right? Everything in Sundance Lab doesn't place Sundance.
Right.
Okay, so it had nothing to do with whether you get into that festival or not. Right?
I mean, when I was looking at it, it seemed like for example, a film that I produced, I didn't direct, but for Black Star, that is about African Americans in Mexico, and the director, when we like looked at all the for the Black Star Film Festival, she really thought that was where it would premiere, and when we looked at like at least 6 films, they all had Firelight Fellowship, and so it seemed to us like if you didn't have the Firelight Fellowship, it was really
It doesn't.
I suppose, I mean, if you're looking at logistically how many people would do that lab, they wouldn't be able to play every single project anyway. I mean, I know there's a part of at the point of submission, some festivals, if they do have a lab where they'll say, have you been a part of it? Because it might be that this isn't the lab project. It might be you were part of the lab and this is another entirely different project. But I mean, it's the same with some other festivals that give out funding. They only have so many slots in a program. So it's not going to be like you are guaranteed to get in because of that. Because if they give out funding to like 30 short films a year, they can only play 6. So it might come down to also the quality, the variety, if they're shot, because sometimes people get the funding later in the year and it's not actually finished yet. So I would say no. I think they just sometimes like to know if you've been part of a lab, because it can be a consideration if they're putting together a separate strand. To your first question about...
Well, one time at a traditional festival with dot categories at half an hour, it is going to be trickier, I'll be honest. Not impossible. I mean, if it's amazing, it will still play. Doc-specific film festivals that only play documentaries, it's much more common to have a short at half an hour, and it has more of a chance of playing. It can be a companion piece before feature, for example. So you're battling it out with more types of films at a traditional festival, where with docs, they're there for the long play, the long watch. So it's a bit of a different way, but it's not impossible.
I mean, if it's amazing, they'll play it. You know.
Remember that for us at the Academy, the journey for docs is really different. It's up to 40 minutes. You have to really look at the film that you have. The issue might be the film, not the length.
Do you mean the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, Kimberly?
The very same. Yes.
Just confirming for everyone.
Just want to give you flowers. She's a big deal. You are.
Understanding the doc short in the festival space means you have to separate out your feature film festivals versus the doc festival circuit.
Yeah.
You have to really look at
Research.
film is 27 minutes because there might need to be a festival version where you have your
That's interesting. Yeah.
business with,
Yeah.
but for festivals maybe get a 22.
Yeah.
Because it could be just that the film needs to take the air out, but it could be the success of the execution of the film itself, not the length that's making it hard to program. But if you have a film over 25 minutes, you have to change your strategy of what festivals you're applying to. Because if there are only 3 or 4 short film programs, they can't take as many films over 20 minutes. It's just a length. But if you're going to Cleveland, Paul's going to program 120 or 50 shorts. Newport Beach is going to program 100 short films. So you got to be smart about where you're sending your stuff.
I mean, the bottom line as well is if you've got a half an hour short, the average short block is 90 minutes. So you're asking a programmer to concede 1/3 of their block just to you. And it doesn't matter how good your film is.
But Big Sky, they do it for 8
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is you got to look and see, because if your film is going to be on the path for the Peabodys, the IDAs, some of that thing that might be going down with your film, festivals might be part, but you're only going to apply to a third of the type of festivals that really matter anyway.
How many festivals have you been in so far?
Premiere here, and it did show before short long doc. So it was a long short.
Okay. So someone programming wise jumped through some hoops to kind of make it work. Yes.
But it's been probably, and it premiered in Europe also 10 festivals.
Okay.
So
Great.
Wait, a final question.
Wait, one moment.
No.
One moment. I have something I want to say.
No,
I would say something about.
Yeah.
ask me.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I just want to say something off the back of what you just said is please only go on the circuit with one version of your film. Don't go on the version with 2 different.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying.
Make a festival cut.
Yes.
Yeah, no. I'm saying. Yeah, what I'm saying is. Oh, yeah, no. I agree having a different version for business stuff, but what I was saying is just to clarify.
Director's cut, show it to your mom.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but only go on a competitive circuit with one version. Yeah.
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 If you got an amazing 12-minute version of that, you're going to get into a lot more festivals probably. And then your 27 can live on YouTube or wherever else for the rest of it. That needs to be told. Right.
Yeah. The Academy trends.
Yes.
And again, you got to know what you got, which means you need to get, if you really, and I'm going to say this, if you think you don't be spending money and resources to qualify for film for Oscar, unless somebody you're not related to told you have a film that's really an Oscar candidate.
That is the hardest conversation. Yeah.
I can't say how many films I have paid the money and given the Lumleys and the Angelica that money and applied to all these festivals, and they are not
worthy.
Oh, to four-wall? And okay.
Yeah.
Do y'all know what four-wall means?
the amount of money that people are, I'm getting into that, and I'm going to qualify our film for Oscar, and you are not. And
That's the first step. You need deep pockets for a PR and for your consideration campaign, which is actually where
that
hard work is.
you have, there's 50 films a year that should be going on that.
Yes. Yeah.
So for walling, and this is related to what I wanted to say. I'm going to start with that. So this our school is qualified for the Student Academy Awards, which are now an international award. It used to be U.S. domestic and international. Now everything's combined. So it's a global award in narrative fiction and doc and animation and experimental. And what I have noticed since they've combined everything, and it was kind of like this in the past, is that those short films tend to be 20 to 40 minutes long. And that is a really challenging conversation for me to have with my student filmmakers, who will point at what the Oscars are doing. And let me tell you, these films are brilliant. Every single minute single second is moving the experience of the film or the story forward. There's no fat in these films. They're excellent. They may not be my favorite films, but they're excellent and they're very high quality. But my new and emerging filmmakers need to build their skills. They need to be out there making 10 to 15-minute films and really getting a handle on the format. So that was one thing that I wanted to say. One of my filmmakers did point out, and this is for you, that a lot of niche festivals, in particular, like if your film fits a certain niche and it's longer, it's in that 25 to 30 range, and it really, really speaks to the audience, they're going to give it a lot more consideration than, say, a general interest festival where they're really looking at their real estate, which is in a more general way. So that's important to note. For walling, what is that? There are a couple of ways to qualify for in the shorts. I'm just going to say shorts.
So in several categories, including documentary feature, animated short, doc short, and live action short. There's a list of festivals that is updated. The new Academy qualifying, the BAFTA qualifying, there's others, where there's a list of festivals that if your film wins one of the approved awards at that festival, sometimes it's best animation, sometimes best effect. There's a list. So sometimes filmmakers will just take that list and make that all the festivals that are applying to you, but they don't realize like Ann Arbor is on a
bad idea.
Doesn't go there.
Yeah.
And if you do not win at one of these pre-qualification festivals, then your film must be released theatrically, just like a feature, to be eligible to be considered for Academy Award consideration. There are several theaters in the United States that
and markets.
And then you have to do a certain amount of days, a certain amount of runs in that day to qualify. It's thousands of dollars. And so that's the underpinnings of, if your film, it can be really hard to win Cleveland Film Festival or HollyShorts. And so there are many films that are fantastic that do have to forewall, but I would say many, 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 many are spending a lot of money on films that really aren't an Oscar film, and you don't want to hear that because it's your baby.
I think unless you are a millionaire, you don't want to mess with us. So that's my opinion. I'll tell you.
If you are a millionaire, talk to me afterwards.
Yeah. Mark's. Danon, did you have a question for our group?
Hi, my name is Shadan Sablan. I'm a narrative shorts programmer here at Tallgrass, and I work for committee, Bignell generation. And I'm so happy to meet you because, yes, all of you, but specifically because I want to thank you. I want to thank Rebecca for programming Wunderfreund bei Mesaliet and Schwarze Früchte bei Lamen Güber. I know them and I know their journeys. And I know these are filmmakers, brown and black filmmakers from Germany, that they would not have, not when they didn't receive the platform they received here at Rebecca. And we can have...
Oh, you're definitely going to have a longer conversation. Do you have a question?
It's a village, and the Tribeca programming teams are extensive. It's a huge amount of people that do all this work, and I'm very, very lucky to be a part of that family of people.
Yeah, my question. So for me, curating programming is, I've done films before, 2 documentaries, is a bit similar to editing in the sense that we also have to kill our babies. So my question to you would be, how do you endure?
Sure.
Like, how's it?
Absolutely.
She was looking at you because you're the most important one. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's there's have other sets of eyes. You know, that helps for sure. And I was talking to someone earlier about, like, you know, a beat sheet or whatever. I mean, there's always space. There's always room out of every film that could come out. You know, it's the hero's journey, right? So take your character from here to there. What needs to happen? What does the audience need to see? And one of the things that I like to tell people is, you conceive this idea. It's in your script. You even shot it. It looks incredible. No one's taking that away from you. If it doesn't make the final cut, all that stuff still exists. You can still have it. It can be in your long whatever that's on YouTube. But just pull out what's important to get your character from here to there, that journey. That's really all that matters. That's what's going to matter to the audience. So if we sit and watch the person contemplatively look out the window for 4 minutes in the middle of your film, I mean, that's important to you, but it may not matter to an audience sitting in a film festival. So that's kind of the easiest way for me to kind of pull out pieces.
Me personally, in the different, for it's Guadalajara, when we're programming for Guadalajara, it's a very specific thing. When we do Guadalajara for LA, it's very specific about who's getting platformed. So I was the shorts programmer for that for several years. So when we get to the very end, the killing the babies goes towards discovery and originality and something that has a uniqueness. When I'm bringing audiences, I'm bringing them to my house to be like, oh my God, I have to share this thing I saw. And so when it comes down to those last bits that are just all amazing, for me personally, I'm going to prioritize the ones that I feel is newest in terms of journey, impact to filmmaker, also innovation and storytelling. So if there's any of the last batch that really did something different, unexpected, I think that organically for me rises it to get the spot. The other thing for me is understanding whichever festival I'm working for at the time, what their mission is. And so I will go back and literally read, what's the section's mission? What was the intention? And what's the vibe of the festival? Which is, even at this festival, for the Gordon Parks Award, there was a consideration about Gordon Parks and what his mission was, what his life is, and his own work, and what his philosophy was. And so for me in my head, that's what I think about when it comes into making that determination. But most of all, what's new for my audience? What's new for the communication people who come every year? What's the thing they least seen or these different kind of stories?
I'd like to add to that when I'm a judge and you know, judging is usually there's a committee of at least 3 people, that it's really important to me to find out who needs this award. If somebody has already gotten numerous awards, they don't need our award. Let's give it to somebody who needs it, who needs this chance. So we don't need to keep piling on more laurels and more awards on someone who has already gotten a number of them. Not everyone does it that way, but this is why I think it's really important to update your screenings and awards in your Film Freeway account when they happen. If you don't know how to do that, come see me later. I'll show you. All right, we're about to run out of time, and I think you had a question. Did you?
The first, I just want to make sure I understand the 4 walls thing. So 4 walling would be like putting your film in a
paying to put for 7 days. Yeah.
There are cities being added, which is very exciting for the first time. But you don't have to be just in LA, New York. It's brand new. It's coming. And those theaters will have a program, particularly for short films, where you can team up and spread the pain a little bit. But yeah, you have to theatrically, it's like you're renting the theater.
Yeah. The rules are on the Academy website. Yeah, you can easily find them.
Yeah.
And each category has different rules. So you have to 7 days, some are 8 days, some are twice a day, 3 times. You'll have to go and find your section because and they changes every year. So documentary features, I believe, will be coming out with what the rules are. Live action is a little bit different, and then these theaters provide the service to qualify your film. Just call one of the theaters, and there's a thing on the website to qualify my film, and they'll give you the rates. And then sometimes the short filmmakers can team up by the hour,
And what was your other question?
So I had a film amongst the Kansas filmmakers this Saturday morning. I grew up here in Kansas. I live in New York City. I've been making movies since I was like a little kid, basically. For the past few years, my dad and I have been trying to learn about the festival circuit. But I was particularly interested in this panel because it's about short films specifically. And one of the things, we've been lucky enough that
What would you like how can we help you?
Yeah.
lucky enough, I've been making movies for a long time, and I've gotten into a number of festivals. I think the last 150, mostly small.
That is my question, my friend. What's your question?
It is, what can a short filmmaker actually expect to get out of festivals for the future?
Well, we addressed that a little bit at the very top about the value of festivals, and I think it's a legitimate question. And as an educator, I'll tell you, I think that one of the most important things you can do is go onto the festival circuit with your next project ready to start trying to finance. And if this is like your third or fourth or fifth short film, then you're like ready to level up. Like you're ready to go to that next level. So you need to show up with your script, your pitch deck, budget, all that sort of stuff. What would y'all like to add?
I mean, I always think of short films on the circuit as business cards. You're basically showing everybody what you can do as a creative. So by getting it out there, you're showing your wares, what you can do. So showcasing your talent. So think of it as a way to network and show what you can do and how you can be creative and how you can work on future projects.
I think for me, perhaps it's a little bit more granular, is that when you go to a film festival, and we've kind of mentioned it earlier, you're seeing a different audience each time. And I think that's so valuable for you as a filmmaker, because not everyone's going to get your film, not everyone's going to like it, but you're going to find people who embrace it and love it. And I think it is terrifying but thrilling at the same time to experience that, because a Midwest audience is different from a West Coast audience. An Irish audience is very different from a Canadian audience. And the more that you experience that, the more it will filter into you honing your craft. Am I making something that can travel? It might be yes, it might be no. But I think for me, going to festivals to watch films that you would never see anywhere else, to meet filmmakers that you would never be able to meet anywhere else, but also to experience an audience that you would never see anywhere else, which is why I always want filmmakers to travel. And I don't necessarily mean physically travel with the film each time. Great, like I said, if you can, but to get your film traveling, because that is gold dust for you to kind of go, yeah, my film played in the other side of the world, and it played, and you might win an award, you might get an audience response to it. So I kind of feel that I don't always think it's about, it's hard to verbalize. I've had too many mimosas. They were strong, right? I think it's, I think you should always be thinking about what you're working on next. I completely think that's a valid point, but I should also think you should be in the moment with your film on that journey as you go through these festivals, because you've made it, and now you've got to hold its hand as you go around the circuit journey with it.
For me, scenarist, the single biggest benefit to every festival is the people that I meet, that I collab with. Finding filmmakers that I really have a vibe with. Many of the people I work with and collab with and create with, I met at festivals because I love their work, and their work blew my mind, and I have to be there. the single most important part of my survival as an artist is those community and relationships. They keep me going every day, and those I nurture on the festival circuit. The people you will meet at these festivals may not be more than one or two, but you'll walk this journey with them for the rest of your life. The single most, so many opportunities I get is the opportunities that I get recommended for because somebody met me on a message from their vice versa. Right? I hear about festivals that are dope that maybe I wasn't considering even going to, but a friend of mine at Screamfest said, you need to apply to this festival and you need to go whether you get in or not. And it's true, we found some money for our film at that festival because it was our people. And I would never have really considered that festival if I hadn't been at, Screamfest and meeting these really cool folks.
Mark, what do you want to add?
You're Taylor Swift, right? You're a kid, and I want to make a thing, and I want people to see the thing, right? And then you make that thing, and then you want people to see it, so you go out there and you push it out there, and you continue, and you make the next thing, right? So, and then eventually you're a billionaire, right? So that the goal is to, hopefully, right? But the goal is to make a thing, and then have as many people see that thing as possible, build an organic audience for that thing, but then also for you, right? And then the next thing you make has a bigger audience automatically because now it's your name is attached to this thing, right? So then that's in more places potentially if it's good, right? And you continue to grow, you continue to get better, you work with more people, then you're in another thing, right? Now, and then now you join up with people like this, and they're like, hey, here's what will make it better. Here's other festivals you can go to, and it's an organic growth that will build on itself. If you support it, you're here, you're supporting it, right? You participate in the Q&A. When they ask you a question, you've got answers ready, and you're engaging with your audience so that when you said something very cool, someone wants to come up and talk to you afterwards, and now they're engaged. Now they want to follow you on socials. So it's an organic process that takes time. And the fact that you're sitting here and asking questions with the panel I think is a good sign. So continue doing what you're doing, and you're going to be great. You may not be Taylor Swift, but you're going to be great.
We can't all be Taylor Swift, but I try every day.
We want to. Aspirational.
Thank you so much, everybody. We're going to, I would like to ask for a lightning round of what is the biggest myth that you would like to bust for our final statements from our panelists. What is the myth you most want busted today? Ian.
Films aren't watched because Vimeo analytics are saying that they're not being watched, and it's bullshit. Because films get downloaded, they are ported through Film Freeway, they do get watched. If they're not being watched, they're not the festival worth submitting to in the first place, and that's your fault.
I have proof of that, by the way. I'll talk about it later.
I think I've already covered them, but I would say come back to me.
You partner with what Ian is saying. If your film some festivals have multiple people watching in the first round, and just because you see on your Vimeo analytics that 3 people watch it, does it mean anything?
It means nothing. Don't watch those. Just don't. Just don't.
That it only got watched 10 minutes. I downloaded it and I started watching it on my screen.
Yeah.
It means nothing.
Your biggest fan as a creator in the world is the person that's just about to hit play on your film. They don't know who you are. They don't know anything about you, and they're so excited to go on the journey that you're about to take them on. So they hit play. Now you can lose that, right? And you can simply lose it. But I will say that every one of our panelists, every one of our judges, every one of us, all we want is to discover the next great, amazing piece of work. And we assume that's when we get something from you guys, we assume that next thing is that. And then it's all downhill or uphill from there.
Mark, that's so nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Your biggest fans.
I did think of one, and it is the biggest fallacy for me is if you contact a festival after you submitted, that it can change their mind. They really don't want you to contact them until they select your film.
Yeah.
It can piss them off, and it can also it can blacklist you.
So asking the question like, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I just
There's
submitted my
8,000 films to watch. They haven't got time to respond to every film.
Yeah,
True.
They not respond in your time frame.
yeah.
That you're extrapolating information from that.
Mm-hmm.
I get 20 or 30 cold emails from people I've never met on my LinkedIn every day.
Yes.
Especially January, February, where we're really getting down in the wire. Guess what I'm not doing when I'm on my last month of watching films?
I had somebody contact me on LinkedIn who was asking where they were in the selection process with their film, and they gave me a tracking number and everything. I was not a programmer for that festival. I never have been a programmer. I've been a judge. For that particular festival, I was doing an industry panel, and I was a sponsor. And I messaged them and said, I'm not part of the programming team, but I know that the selections are going out soon. And they followed up again, and they said, completely ignoring everything, and said, so I want to know if I'm selected because I need to book some travel. And I'm a very nice person, and I'm very patient. But it was really weird to kind of write, you're not reading anything until you read my last response. Don't ask me another question.
There was another weird one, which I'll remain anonymous, but where programmers were being sent like gifts to their own house, which is creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
So, that's not going to make you go, that's really nice. You're going to pick that.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, you can be like banned, and the police going to be finding out about this. It's crazy.
We were watching football, and the filmmaker down the road said she had seen me on a panel and I had seemed really nice, and so she thought she'd just come to my house.
Don't do that.
Okay, that's a recipe for not getting programmed.
Yeah.
So
You know, I don't mind an email. If it's not like prodding or trying to I mean, if it's an email like you said, it has the tracking number in it, it has the movie title in it. Sometimes I'll get an email and I'm like, I don't know who this is. Like, so tell me the name of your movie, tell me the tracking number so I can look at it at least. But if it tells me something pertinent, like, hey, we just premiered it, whatever, or hey, my cinematographer is from Omaha, or if there's something important that like may matter to me, I'll take that email and
context.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's context.
Yeah.
Well, sure. Ultimately,
So
don't be a dick.
unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap this up, y'all. I did tell you not to be shy earlier. Okay, but I'm going to give you my myth that I want to bust, and it is that my film should be getting into 80 to 100% of the festivals that I submit to. We've had this conversation a lot, and I will share with you that my statistics show, and I think theirs show, that if you get into 30% of the festivals, quality festivals you submit to, that is superior. If you get
10% is good.
Yeah, 10% is good.
10% is like the average, but like you can fluctuate either side of that.
Yeah.
Like,
But it's the quality of the festival.
yeah.
It is the quality of the festival. So please don't feel like you have to. It's not school. You don't need 100% on your exam. What you need is like 10%, 15%.
100% is
And-
fixed.
Yeah.
I would rather go to 5 amazing festivals.
Yeah.
I worked on a film that got qualified for Oscar and ultimately won Best Short Film. And it got into 4 film festivals.
And that's good.
But it won everyone it got into.
Yeah.
And they were all qualifying, and the film ultimately won. But he was very clear. He had a 40-minute doc. He knew, and it budgeted. He was going to have to apply to a ton to get into a couple. And that's all it needed.
And I think that's an important observation.
Quality
All
is
right, y'all. Thank you so much for being here today with us. Thank you to our panelists. I really appreciate y'all being here and bringing your knowledge and bringing your expertise. And have a great day.